Hello everyone, welcome to Sri Lanka DevOps Community August Meetup. My name is Pushpa Hera. In today's session we are going to learn Azure Container Apps. Let's move to today's lineup. First we will be discussing what is Azure Container Apps, and then we will be discussing benefits. Later we can move to demo where we will be learning how to deploy container app environment with Terraform and how to deploy container app using Azure CLI. So what is container app? Container app is a fully managed serverless container platform, which means you don't have to worry about complex configurations of the platform. It is built top of Azure Kubernetes services and other services such as SCADA. Container apps support Linux containers, and we can use private registries with the container apps. You will be able to learn more features available with container apps while we are doing the demo. So let's move to next slide. So what are benefits of container apps? One of the main benefit is you will pay only to the usage. And another benefit is easy management. Container app is fully managed. You don't have to worry about complex configuration. Container app supports auto scaling. It chooses CPU and memory based on an event or HTTP request. One of the main component of container app is revisions. Revision is an immutable snapshot of a container app. It can be used to implement scenarios such as blue-green deployments. Now we can move to the demo. In this demo, you will be learning how to deploy container app environment with Terraform. Then we will create .NET API and containerize it. Finally, we can learn how to deploy container app using Azure DevOps pipelines. So let's move to the demo. For the demo, I have created Azure DevOps project. In Azure, I have created storage account. This storage account will be used to keep Terraform state file, and I have created container registry which will be used to push container images. Let's go back to Azure DevOps project. In Azure DevOps project, I have added few other components. Let's move to Azure DevOps libraries. Here I have created variable group called dev. Inside that variable group I have defined 4 variables. ACR password, this is container registry key, which can be found under the access keys, and then container registry. This is container registry service connection. I will show you the service connection after this. And then I have created a variable called image repo. This is Azure Container Registry repository name. And then I have created service connection called CAE demo. Let's go to settings and select service connections. You can see there are 2 service connections available here. One is CAE demo. It is Azure Resource Manager service connection, and we have ACR connection string, which is Docker registry connection string. If we go to the edit mode, you can see I have selected other option here, and then I have given Docker registry, and here I have provided service principal ID, and here we use service connection password as Docker password, and then we can give any name as a service connection name and select this checkbox to grant access permission to all pipelines. Let's go back to Let's go to environments. In environment section, I have created environment called dev. Inside that environment, you can see approvals and checks. I have added one approver to this environment. This environment will be used in our CI/CD pipeline. Now let's move to Azure DevOps repo and click on clone and copy the clone URL. Go to Visual Studio Code and click on command palette, select git clone and provide the clone URL. Now we can select select folder, let's create new folder. Let's open the clone repository in the same Visual Studio Code. Right, now we can start adding code here. First, let's create 3 folders. I have created 3 folders. We are going to use IAC folder for the Terraform. Let's go inside IAC folder and let's start adding our Terraform files. I create new file called environment. In environment Terraform file, I'm going to add provider details. We are using Azure RM provider as we are working with Azure. Let's add another file called main. We are going to create 3 resources using the Terraform script. First, we are going to create resource group, and then we are creating log analytics workspace, which we'll be using with container app environment, and then we add resource block to create container app environment. This container app environment is publicly accessible. We are going to use Azure storage account to keep our Terraform state file. So we need to add storage account configuration to our project. Let's create new folder. Let's name it as config. Inside config file, I'll add new file called dev.cfg. I copy these scripts to config file. It has storage account name, container name, key name, tenant ID, subscription ID, and resource group name of the storage account. Now our script is ready. Let's try to run Terraform script locally to verify everything configured correctly. Let's open new terminal. First, we need to move inside the IAC folder. Then type Terraform init and they give the config file path. Let's give the config file path. Path is config dev.cfg. Let's run this command. Now you can see Terraform init is running. During Terraform init, dependencies are being downloaded. Let's wait until initial init step is completed. Now we can run Terraform plan. Terraform plan will show us which resources are going to be created, updated and destroyed. In this situation we are working in a new project, so there should be only creation. We can see there is a container app environment and log analytics workspace, and we can see there is a resource group. So 3 resources to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. Now initial configuration are done. Let's push this code before proceed with the next step. Add all, stage all the files we need to push. Add a comment. I add it as initial tf. Okay, now let's go to Azure DevOps and see Terraform scripts we added. Let's go back to next. Let's add IAC pipeline to deploy Terraform. Go to pipelines folder and add new file. I add it as iac.yaml. I copy pipeline step to the YAML file here. I will explain these steps later. Next we need to, in our YAML file, we are using environment YAML file, which we have details about variable groups. We will add that to the pipeline folder. Add a new file called env.yaml. Add this value to environment YAML file. It is variable group name. Okay, let's go back to IAC pipeline. First we define triggers. In this scenario we have defined triggers like this, which means this pipeline will get automatically triggered when new changes done to the IAC folder of main branch. And for this pipeline we are using Azure DevOps hosted agents, and we use Windows 2022 image. Under variable section I have defined environment YAML file where we have details of variable groups. We are using multiple stages in this pipeline. First stage is CI stage, where we do Terraform plan and publish Terraform plan to the pipeline. So steps start from here. First we install latest version of Terraform. In this step, we do the Terraform init. In Terraform init step, we have to give service connection details, subscription ID, resource group name, storage account name, and container name and key of the storage account which we are using to keep our state file. Next step is Terraform plan. In Terraform plan step, we are using service connection working directory where we can find our IAC scripts. And in Terraform plan step, we generate TF plan. So we have to add command to get TF plan as an output of this step. And in next step, we publish Terraform plan as Azure DevOps pipeline artifact. Now we have a CD stage. We have added depends on line, which means this stage depends on CI, and we have added this condition, which means CD stage will be start running if and only if CI stage succeeded. Next, we have defined environment as dev. This will be used to configure the manual approvals for the CD stage. Okay, now we have first step here. It is installing Terraform latest version, and then in this step we download the build artifact we created in the CI stage. Then we have to do Terraform init to initialize Terraform. This is the same step as CI stage. And finally we run Terraform apply. We have to give apply command, and we have to provide working directory, service connection. In command option, we have given path to TF plan, which we downloaded in artifact download step. Now we can push this code. Now we can push this YAML files to the repo. I'll add it as IAC pipeline. Let's push this. Okay, now let's go to Azure DevOps. And refresh repo. Okay, we don't have the pipeline code yet. Let's wait a little bit. Okay, now we have pipeline folder, and we have 2 YAML files in it. Now we have everything we need to create IAC pipeline. Let's go to pipelines. Click on create pipeline. Select use the classic editor option, and here you can select repository and branch. I am working on main branch, so I don't need to change any of the values here. Click on continue, and I'm going to create my pipeline using the YAML file, so I add this YAML. And now we can give a path to the YAML file from here. Select IAC YAML, and okay. We don't need to change other values. Let's change the name. Let's name it as demo app CI/CD save it in the root. I save it in the root. You can choose any other folder if you want. Let's go to pipelines. We have our pipeline here. Let's run it. Okay, now we can go inside the plan. Okay, for the first time you will see this kind of message. Click on view. By clicking on this permit button, we give permission to our pipeline to access variable groups. Okay, Terraform CI stage has started. We can see Terraform installers. We can see Terraform installation has completed, and then the Terraform init step and succeeded, and then we can see plan stage. We have details about what are the resources we are going to create it, and we have published state and one files published. Let's go back to pipeline view, and you can see this stage is waiting. Let's open it, and you can see similar message here as previous stage. Now pipeline need access to environment. Let's click on permit. Now pipeline can access environment. In environment we have configured approvals, so we can add a comment, and if you want, it is not mandatory, it is optional. You can add a comment and click on approval or reject based on your need. Here I go with approve. Now let's go to see this stage. Okay, it is starting. Now we download artifacts. Then checkout state is completed. Then Terraform installation. We install latest version of Terraform. Then download TF plan, which we publish in CI stage. And then we have Terraform init step, and now we can see Terraform creating resources. First we are creating a resource group, and then we are creating log analytics workspace, and finally we can see container app environment is creating. Okay, it is completed now. Let's go to Azure and check our resources. Search for container app environment. Here is the container app environment we created. Dev container app environment and CAERG. Right, now we have created container app environment. Next we can create application and containerize it. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Now we need to change directory to SRC. We are going to create .NET Web API. Let's create it using .NET commands. .NET new web API, give a name for the web API. I name it as demo app. Okay, now application is created. If you see inside src folder, we can see application is created. Let's run application using the command. Okay, now we can run the application. Let's go inside the demo app folder, and then we can use .NET command .NET run to run the application. Okay, if we click on this link, okay, we need to put Swagger end of the URL. Yes, it's working. We can see that the forecast API is working. So let's close this and use Ctrl+C to end the process. Right, now we have a web API. We need to prepare this to containerize. We need to change a few files in this project. Let's start with CS project file. We need to define a target OS for this application. We can do it by adding these two lines to CS project file. We are going to use Linux as target OS, and also we define Docker file context using this value. Right, now we can move to app setting JSON file. So we can change values here to get more detailed logs. So let's add these two lines. Microsoft hosting lifetime as information and Microsoft ASP.NET Core as information. It will provide informative logs. Now we can go to properties. Under properties we have launch settings. Let's add the launch settings here for the Docker. Okay, now we have added these few lines to define launch settings for Docker. Save this. Finally, we can add Docker file for this project. Let's add new file and name it as Docker file. Okay, now I copy Docker file content. Docker file has set of commands can be used to create our Docker image. First we download base image and then build and publish Docker image. Let's try to build Docker image for our project. Okay, let's use this command. Command is docker build and then -d, give the name for the tag, image tag, and we use no cache option. Then give a path to the Docker file. Okay, we have to change directory to use this command. Let's run the command again. Now our Docker build is completed. Now let's run Docker image list. we can find our Docker image here. Right, now we can push our code to repo, but before doing that, let me add git ignore file. C#, click on OK. Okay, we have git ignore file here. Let's and git ignore file, and we can ignore these Terraform files. We don't need those files in the repo. Let's add application files, CS project, Docker image, and other CS files, and load settings. Okay, now we can add comment as add init app. And push. Okay, if we go to the repo, we should be able to see the code changes here. Right, we have our application and Docker file, everything ready here. Now we can create CI/CD pipeline to deploy container app. First we need to add steps to build and push the Docker image. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, and inside pipelines add new code, new YAML file as app.yaml. I'll copy YAML file content here. In this YAML pipeline, first we have defined triggers. So this pipeline will get triggered when there are new changes in SRC folder of main branch. And we have pools here. Since container app supports Linux, we have to create Linux images. For that we need to change pools. We need to change VM image here. Let's use Ubuntu 24 image. Then we have variables. We use environment YAML template here for the variables. And then we have stages. We have CI stage, where we build our application using .NET build command, and then we publish using .NET publish, and finally we publish artifacts to the Azure DevOps pipeline. Then we have a second job of the CI stage, which is build Docker image. We have a Docker build step where we build the Docker image. We need to give container registry. This is the container registry service connection we created. And then we need to give the repository name, and we have the command build, and we give path to Docker file, and we define the build context. If we go to Docker push step, we need to give a container registry service connection and repository name, and command, finally tag. We are going to use build ID as the image tag. Before move to CD section of this pipeline, we need to add another YAML file which we are using in the CD section. So let's add another YAML file here called CApp template YAML. I have copied the content to the YAML file. So this YAML file is the container app template. It has all the details, all the configurations of the container app we are going to create. Let's have a look at this file. First we define location of the container app, then give the name of the container app and resource group of the container app. We have then these values can keep as it is. If you want to add some resource tags, resource tags to Azure resources, you can use these tags. And then we have this manage environment ID, which we need to give full ID of the container app environment. Under configurations, we have active revision mode, which means how many revisions we can have in our container app. We can give a value as multiple or single. I'll change this as single. If we put put value as multiple, you can have multiple revisions in the container app. And then we have secrets. In container apps, we can define secrets. You can provide secret values. Here I have a container registry access key as the as a secret. So this is the name I given for the key, and this is the value. So I have added this as a token replacement. So let's add here. Okay, now we have I have added this value, and this value will get replaced by the Azure DevOps pipeline. And then we have Ingress section, where we configure ingress traffic to the container app. So in this container app, we have enabled external ingress to the container app, and we have defined 80 as the target port. And using this traffic section, we have defined latest revision get the 100% of the traffic come to the container app. And then we have provided details of the registries. We are using Azure Container Registry, so we provide details of the container registry here. So container registry name and container registry username. We have defined secret value as a container registry password, and then we can give a suffix for the revision. We use build ID as a revision suffix. And then we have container details. Here we can give the image name. We have login server name, and then the repository name, and finally image tag. Then you can give a name for the container. I use the same name as the container app. And in container apps, you can define environment variables. So I added one environment variable here, and then you can mention resource allocation for the container. So we go with 0.5 CPU and 1 GB. And here you can define probes. This as / if you have endpoint, you can add it here. I'll add path like this. So startup probe can be used to ensure container is started and ready to receive request. And finally, I have added scale settings. Using scale settings, I have defined this container app can have minimum 1 replica and maximum 3 replicas. So let's save this file, and now we can go back to our app YAML file. Okay, now in YAML CD section, we have first task here. It is for token replacement. So we need to give the path root directory for the to the YAML file and give the YAML file name. We need to select a token pattern. I am using custom token pattern, and I'll give my token pattern like this. And then we can move to our CLI script, which we are using to deploy container app. Here I will add the value, add the display name, as deploy container app, and then I have added inline CLI script here. We have selected service connection and script type as a PowerShell core and script location as inline. First, we need to install few extensions and enable providers to work with the container apps. So we added container app extension and Microsoft, and then register Microsoft app and Microsoft operational insight providers. First, using container app list command, we verify whether this container app already created or not. If it is already created, we run container app update command to update the container app. And if there isn't a container app with the same name, then we create new container app. So we have AZ container app update command. We need to give name of the container app and then resource group of the container app, then path to the container configuration YAML. And same here in container, to create container app, we need to give AZ container app create command and then name of container app, resource group, and path to the container app template YAML file. So let's save this file. We can push both files to the repo. I add this as add app YAML. Okay, now we have all the files we need. Now we are ready to create a CI/CD pipeline for container app. I go to pipelines and click on new pipeline. Select classic editor. I don't change any of these values here. Click on continue and click on YAML. Now from here we can select the pipeline template, pipeline YAML, app YAML, to create pipeline for the application. We don't change any other values. Let's change the name of this pipeline, C app. Let's name it as C app. and save it. Okay, let's go to, and you can see our application in the on pipeline section. Let's run the pipeline. Go to the build, and you will see this type of message, and click on permit to enable access to a variable group. So you can see pipeline is getting started. First checkout step is completed. Now Docker build step is running. Now we can see Docker build has completed, and then Docker push has completed. And let's go back to, but our build step is still running. You can see build step, .NET build step is completed, .NET publish step is completed. Let's go to pipeline, and you can see the stage is waiting. Click on view and enable access to dev environment. Then you will get the approval window. Let's approve the deployment. Now you can see CD stage is starting. Download artifacts completed, and then checkout step is completed. Then replace token step has completed. We can see 3 tokens replaced in the CApp template YAML file. So let's go to the next step, where we are trying to deploy container app creation logs. So now we can see container app creation has started. Scripts. Now container app creation is completed. Let's go to Azure, and we are in container app environment. Let's go to apps. Under apps you can see our container app. Let's go inside the container app. Inside container app you can see revisions. We have one revision running, and if you can see it get 100% traffic, and it has one replica. If you want to have multiple revisions, you can click on this button and change it to multiple, and click on apply. Then it will allow you to have multiple revisions here. Let's go to containers. In containers section you can see all the details about the container. We name our container as demo CApp, and we use Azure Container Registry to pull image to container app, and we give name of the container registry and image, and finally a build ID as the image tag. Here you can see resource allocation for this container. We use 0.5 CPU and 1 GB in memory. Let's go to environment variable section. Here we have variable name dummy, which we created using our template. You can have multiple variables here, and you can have and if we go to health probes, you can define health probes using this section. You can have liveness, readiness, and startup probes defined for your app, for your container app. And container environment support 3 different volume mounts. You can define and configure this type of volume mounts for your container app. If you want to edit your container apps, click on edit and deploy. Here you can see the container image details. From here you can edit details, you can add environment variables, and if you go to health probes, you can add health probes from here. Like this, it will enable health probe, and you can change these values from here, and you can add volumes from here. So I'm not going to save any value here. Click on cancel, and you can see scale details from here. Right now we have 1 minimum replica and 3 maximum replica. You can change replica minimum maximum replica values from this area. And let's go back to let's move to scale and replicas. So from here you can see replica, you can see scale details. If you go to replicas, you can see there's one healthy running replica right now. In container apps there are authentication support, and if you go to secrets, you can add a secret value here. We can find the secret value we added here under secrets. We added the container registry password as a secret. You can find that value here, and you can click on add and add secret values, or you can you can refer values from key vault. If you go to Ingress, you can find Ingress configuration. We have enabled Ingress to container app, and Ingress traffic come from anywhere. We can limit Ingress traffic only to container app environment, or we can limit traffic only from the VNet. And we have other configurations. And here we have continuous deployment option. We can enable continuous deployment using GitHub. And let's move to monitoring. In monitoring, you can find metric details here. You can see CPU usage and few other details such as replica counts and replica restart counts. Likewise, you can get some metrics from here. And we have logs. You can write queries and get container logs. And we have log stream here. From here you can select the replica and container and see the logs. And if you want to see system logs, change it to system logs, and you can see the system logs from here. Okay, now let's go back to our container app. So if you want to create a new container app using the portal, you can go here and click on create and select the container, select the subscription resource group, and give the container app name, and you can select the region. There will be a quick start image. If you deselect it, you can select container registry details from here. Let's go with the registry name, and then select the image and select the tag. I'll keep this value without changing them, and let's go to next step. You can enable Ingress from here, and you can change these Ingress values except limited to VNet option. You can enable this. You can enable limited to VNet option while creating the container app environment. You can't change that configuration from the container app level. It is one-time configuration when creating the container app environment. So then let's go to tags, and finally review. We are missing something in the Ingress. Let's go there. Okay, we need to provide target port. Let's put it as a 80, and okay, now okay, it seems everything okay. Let's click on create. Now provisioning has started and deployment is in progress. Let's okay, it is ready. Let's go to the resource. Yeah, now we have another container app running in the container app environment. Let's go back to container app environment. And now we have two container apps in our container app environment. In today's session, we have discussed how to deploy container app environment using Terraform via Azure DevOps pipeline. Then we have learned how to create a web API using .NET commands and how to containerize it. And then we have learned how to create a container app template, how to create container app YAML template, how to build and push Docker image to container registry, and how to deploy container app using Azure CLI command via Azure DevOps pipeline. I hope you have learned something today, and thank you very much for your time.